So this video looks specifically at how a warm-up and a cool-down affect the cardiovascular system, as the specification states there. So let's first of all look at the warm-up and see if we can figure out what impact doing a warm-up will have on your cardiovascular system, or what advantages doing a warm-up might have. Firstly, the arterioles and precapillary sphincters towards the working muscle areas will vasodilate. So sympathetic stimulation will be reduced, and therefore vasodilation will occur. But that basically opens up those vessels and allows blood to flow much more easily to the working muscles. So blood is redistributed towards the muscles and away from our key abdominal area. Secondly, there might be an increase in body temperature, which means that muscles can contract more rapidly. That's a little bit less to do with the cardiovascular system, but inherently an effect of having a warm-up. Again, back to the blood. Blood might decrease in viscosity, which means it becomes more watery, more sort of a less thick. Viscosity is to do with the thickness of the blood, and if it's more watery, then it will flow much more readily through the vessels and transport will be better. We can transport more oxygen to our muscles, so oxygen delivery is improved, and if that is so, then we might delay the buildup of lactic acid. So OBLA stands for the onset of blood lactic acid accumulation. So if we can redirect more blood, carrying more oxygen more easily to the working muscles, we might work aerobically better, and we might delay our fatiguing factors. Now here's a mark scheme that came from actually a 10-mark question, which was a bit broader than just the cardiovascular system, but I've put in red there the points that relate to cardiovascular system, and they're fairly similar to what we just went through. If you warm up, your heart rate and stroke volume will increase, and ultimately therefore your cardiac output will increase. There'll be more oxygen going to the working muscles, will delay OBLA as mentioned earlier, and if we've got good aerobic function early on, we might reduce our oxygen deficit so you can get to work aerobically quicker. And of course, as we said down the bottom there, that the muscles will actually receive more blood with oxygen in and be able to use that faster. So what about the cool down then, doing an active cool down in particular? Now here's a mark scheme to show a typical answer. Only a 3-mark question, but it says describe 3 other effects of an active cool down on the vascular system. So this question specifies 3, so it will only mark your first 3 points. It relates to an active cool down, so there's a big clue in the active element there. And again, it specifies your vascular system, so it wants you to tell you about blood vessels rather than muscles. One thing might be you gradually reduce your heart rate if you do a proper cool down. You don't want to just dramatically stop and try to dramatically reduce your heart rate. We know that metabolism remains a little bit higher after exercise during your recovery period, so that can help gradually reduce heart rate. Part of the reason for this might be because we need to recover from the exercise we've done. We've likely to have built up a lot of waste product, carbon dioxide and lactic acid. So we actually want our cardiac output to be a little bit higher in recovery so that we circulate fresh blood via the capillaries, which remain dilated, to go to the muscles. So we want oxygenated blood going to the muscles in recovery. And we also want to remove the waste products, that carbon dioxide and lactic acid that will have been built up there. The key thing about having an active cool down is that we're likely to be using our muscles and contracting and relaxing our muscles, which means that our muscle skeletal pump will be actively massaging the veins and helping return blood to the heart. And again, there should be a connection between having good venous return, a good amount of blood returning back to the heart, and being able to sustain cardiac output. So we need blood returning in order to send it out of the heart. So actively cooling down is critical to that. If you don't, then blood pooling might occur, and you'll have particularly poor venous return. And if that happens, you might feel dizzy or nauseous. Again, here's the section on cool down from that 10-mark question. And again, I've highlighted the cardiovascular points really there, but it's pretty much what was in the previous mark scheme. Perhaps just adding there, you might feel lightheaded if you don't gradually cool down. And then finally, the 10 marker really summarises the implications of doing a warm-up and a cool down here. So the white are sort of less cardiovascular points, and the red is specifically cardiovascular again. So delaying OBLA, increasing oxygen to the muscles, and in cool down, removing lactic acid, preventing blood pooling, and preventing delayed onset of muscle soreness.